Hey everybody, my name is Damon Knight and welcome as always to my YouTube channel. Today we are continuing with our series on A Complete Noob's Guide to Astrophotography. If you haven't already, I strongly recommend you go back and watch the previous videos in the series. They're going to help lay a lot of the groundwork that will help things make sense later on as we go and even maybe in today's video. Speaking of today's video, today we're going to be talking about cameras. Now, again, this is going to be a high-level discussion. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the different types of cameras used for astrophotography and maybe help you decide which direction you want to go. We're not getting into the nitty-gritty. We're not going to talk about filters. We're not going to talk about pixel scales or resolutions or any of that. That is all for a future video. For today, we're just going to talk about what the camera types are and what some of the pros and cons are for each one. So let's jump right on in. And we're going to talk about smartphones. Yes, you can absolutely do smartphone astrophotography. Obviously, this is a little tricky, right? They're not designed for lenses or telescopes to be attached. There are aftermarket solutions that exist that will let you attach your smartphone to, a telescope eyepiece or whatever, but they're just really not designed for it. That said, people have gotten really, really amazing pictures out of smartphones for astrophotography. It can be done. It's just going to be a little bit of work. Next up, we have DSLRs or mirrorless cameras. Now, I'm not saying DSLRs are mirrorless because they're the same. They're not. They're, for technical reasons, they're different types of cameras, but they're functionally pretty equivalent, so we kind of group them together. This is a really, really common entry point camera for a lot of people in this hobby, right? They don't have a fixed lens. They're generally removable and swappable, which is great. Out of the box, a lot of factory or OEM lenses or even aftermarket lenses for these cameras are fantastic for various types of astrophotography, lunar or kind of wide field, for planetary, or if you want to take Milky Way shots, right? A camera lens is absolutely wonderful. You can easily get adapters that'll let you hook them up to basically any telescope. I got started myself with a DSLR. In fact, the very camera that I'm filming this on is what I took my very first astro pictures with. Um, and, at the end of the day, if you're not doing, when I should say, you're not doing astrophotography, you still have a pretty nice camera that you can use for other stuff. And then, of course, there are dedicated astrophotography cameras. These cameras are designed specifically for astrophotography, and they come in a whole bunch of different flavors. There are color cameras, there are mono cameras. Yes, that's a thing, and you do wind up with color pictures on the other end, I promise. You can get cooled cameras, you can get uncooled cameras. There's a ton of stuff in the dedicated astrophotography camera space. I can and will do a whole other video just on dedicated cameras to really go into all of the details in a future video, but for today, we're not going to worry too much about that. So then the obvious question is, right, which should I get, right? How do I get started, right? And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you think about it, I can't answer that for you. That is a question only you can answer for yourself because it has a lot of different factors, right? It depends on, what your budget is. It depends on what equipment you may already have, and of course, your long-term goals matter. Um, you if you know up front that you're going to be in the hobby for a long time, you probably don't want to start with a camera that you're just going to replace. Um, so, but we'll jump into some of it, the pros and cons, I suppose, a little bit here. A dedicated astro camera will absolutely give you the best results, but they're really not practical for anything else, right? They don't have a manual shutter button. You can't walk around with one taking pictures of things. They're not designed that way. They don't work that way. They're intended to be computer controlled and just do this. Um, on the plus side, right, their resale value tends to be quite good, right? Astro gear generally holds its value better than things in most other hobbies. So, if you discover that astrophotography isn't for you, you'll at least be able to get a decent chunk of your money back out of it if you go to sell it later. Um, a DSLR or a mirrorless camera is incredibly versatile. When you're not doing astro, you have a regular camera, right? It's fantastic. Um, but again, if you're going to be in the hobby long term, you are going to probably want a dedicated camera. If you already have a DSLR, 100% that or a mirrorless, that is the way to start in the hobby. I would just run with that and worry about, upgrading to a dedicated camera later. But if you need to go out and buy a camera because you don't have an adequate one to start with, right? That becomes a very different conversation that you need to have with yourself and decide what you want to do. A smartphone obviously again is nice because you probably have one right now. But like I said before, they're a lot trickier to get quality astro pictures out of just due to how they're designed. And software isn't for astro isn't really set up to control those, and it gets complicated. But again, you've got one, and a camera you have is, more useful than a camera you don't have. So don't let that stop you, but really think about, what you want to do and where you want to go. So that is it for our super quick overview of cameras for astrophotography. Mentioned before, in a future video, we're going to go into a whole lot more detail about dedicated cameras and general terminology and all of that stuff for honestly whatever type of camera you wind up using. There's a lot of concepts that are going to be important and are going to be shared. But that is for a future video. So thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this was helpful for you. I don't know what topic we're going to cover next. You're just gonna have to wait and see what inspiration strikes me. But again, we're gonna keep talking about equipment for a little while, just really to help you get comfortable, get familiar, and not, hopefully, be overwhelmed. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all again next video.